I invite you to step into the stillness, where surrender reveals new perspectives and transformation quietly unfolds. Hey friends, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Elizabeth and this is the More Intuitive Me. I'm a tarot reader and your companion on the path of self-discovery. Welcome back to the Fool's Journey. Today, the Fool meets the Hanged Man, the archetype of surrender, inversion, and sacred perspective. Here, we're going to learn more about pausing, about seeing things differently, and of the idea that we have to let go in order to receive. Before we get into the symbolism of the Hanged Man, I wanted to take a minute to talk about Odin and the World Tree. In Norse mythology, Odin hung himself from the World Tree, and they were there for 9 days and nights. The idea was that they would be sacrificing comfort for wisdom. So this myth is very closely related to the idea of the hangman's energy, where we're taking a sacred pause, a willing inversion. We're on this quest, right, for truth that cannot be rushed. Like Odin, the hangman chooses discomfort in service of revelation, and they hang not to escape but to see. Let's look at the symbolism of the card. Today we're looking at the Universal Way and Tarot Disassembled. Let's first talk about the tree or the crossbeam. We can see it here in the card. On this card we see the tree, and it's often interpreted as the world tree. So that is a symbol of cosmic connection and sacrifice. The world tree is an ancient symbol and it represents the axis that connects the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. And it embodies wisdom, life cycles, and really the interconnectedness of all things. Now, of course, we're going to take note of the fact that the figure is upside down. And oftentimes we're going to see the legs forming kind of like the number 4. So let me flip this over so you can kind of get the idea, right? You can kind of see that number 4. With the upside down posture, we are kind of getting that idea of an inversion, altered perspective, a voluntary suspension of sorts. And then usually right around the head, we have, the halo. We can see it right over here. And that is speaking to the enlightenment that is going to come as a result of being in this energy, right? So spiritual clarity, illumination, but more importantly, the idea of illumination through stillness. Most of the time, when you take a look at the face on the figure, and I'll bring this up a little bit close, you're going to notice that their face looks serene, right? They look tranquil. They look like they're in peace. And it's because they have accepted this, right? There's a sense of peace and of trusting in the unknown. The hangman doesn't struggle, they surrender. And it's not that they're surrendering to defeat, but really to a deeper knowing. Now, let's take a look at the hangman in our everyday life. This energy could show up as needing to take a break from anything productive, right, in order to listen inward. It could also be reframing a situation that felt stuck or frustrating, like seeing a blocked path as an invitation to explore a new direction. Now, earlier I was talking about the figure and the, the shape of the four. Four for me is a number of stability, but here the leg is crossed. And I sometimes think about the two legs as paths. Let's say that they were paths, two legs, two different paths that we could take. And in this sense, one of the paths is blocked, right? So I sometimes feel in my mind that that's the reason why that four is upside down, because the path is blocked. Now, it could also mean choosing not to react immediately, but instead taking a pause. Um, it could be letting go of control in relationships, at work, or even in our healing journey, right? Releasing the need to steer every bit of the outcome. It could be sitting with discomfort rather than rushing to try to fix everything. It could also mean trusting that clarity is going to come even if it is not on your timeline. Okay. The hangman shows up when life is asking you to wait, to be a witness, and to see from a new angle. Let's take a look at some card comparisons. So here we have Tarot of Light, and you can see the card has been renamed to the Turnaround, and the keyword is revolution. In this sense, it wouldn't be like an external revolution or upheaval, but really more of an internal shift. I love that they've chosen the tree as the central focus. And if you take a look, it's almost like no matter how the card comes out, it's still the tree. I really like that. So let's see. Now, this card here, this is from the Samdala Tarot, and the keyword is inversion. Now, I've mentioned that a couple of times already. So here we have the idea of the sacred flip that reveals what was hidden. If you are a fan of yoga, you know that there are a lot of poses that are referred to as inversions, right? Which are great for so many things, so many health benefits, but really it helps you to get your blood going. It helps to relieve stress, believe it or not. And so I love the idea of inversion being used as a keyword here. Now, this one is from the Vision Quest. And here we actually have the title Vision Quest. This is all about that journey inward in order to seek clarity through stillness and surrender. And a lot of times we think that in order to do this vision quest that we need to work with a medicine man or a medicine woman. But the truth is that we can lead ourselves into this journey. You can see here the figure is channeling their spirit guides, spirit animals, totem animals. It's a beautiful card. I love this card. This is from Quiet Rebel Tarot, and we can see that they have added the reality dropout. I love that so much because sometimes we do have people that feel like life can sometimes be overwhelming, that they can't take it not a bit more, and they need to put themselves on a timeout, so to speak. I love seeing the here the crow. I'm not sure if that's a crow or a raven there, but I love to see that there, as well as all of the planets here. It's almost like, what can you see differently? Being able to view the entire universe. I love how they've depicted this particular card. Now, this one is from the Rosebud, and here we have the Hang Up. And I love this so much. I love the way this card reads in a tarot spread. Because for me, I always wonder, what is it exactly that we're getting hung up on? What are we tripping on that is not allowing us to move ahead? And that is, in essence, what is calling for the pause and the release of whatever it is that is holding us up. Love this so much. This one is so good. This is from Forest of Enchantment. We have the keyword suspension. And you could see they almost looks like what a fetus would look like in the womb, except that this person is inside the womb of a tree. There is a dragonfly present. I love to see dragonfly energy. And for me, this card speaks of, this quiet peace and surrender. Like, do you ever go into a body of water and just float? And everything seems to just come to a standstill. It's so incredibly peaceful. And I feel like that's what this figure feels. Now, most of the time, you are going to see cards that look like this: a figure upside down. Sometimes it even appears that they're having fun, just hanging around, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful illustration. But what I like to see is when an artist shows a card with a different viewpoint or vantage point. And I forgot to mention that here we have the Muse Tarot, and this is Earth Woman Tarot. Now here we have the tree, and this is from the Gaian Tarot. And what I love here is the mudra of the hands. I mean, this truly looks like doing the tree pose in reverse. I love that her clothing appears to be clouds, because it's that idea that we're in these deep meditative states, that we visualize our thoughts as clouds and we watch them float by, but we don't cling on to them. We let them go. So I love that. I also love to see the autumn colors in the leaves here, because it shows that it's a season of life that we go through. And even though the leaves are falling at this time, the tree is preparing for regeneration in the spring. Here we have the card from the Sufi Tarot, and the keyword is Taslim. And I love that from this viewpoint, it's almost like you're standing under the tree, you look up and you see this face of peace, comfort. And there's a sense of cleansing in this card too, because with the element of rain, of water, you can kind of see it like washing away or helping us purge the things that are holding us back. Now, the figure doesn't always have to be upside down. Here we have card number 12, renamed Stillness, from Tarot of Aphrodite. The guidebook tells us that this is a tired dancer, and she has found a little nook away from the group where she could rest her tired eyes and her tired body. Now, this card here is from I Am the Artist, and this is a very quirky and fun deck. I like this depiction. I mean, in a weird sense, it almost seems like they're also in a womb, if you can see that there. See? Except this womb is underground and this one is in a tree. And you can see that this figure is hanging underneath their home. And with that idea that you don't have to travel far from home in order to experience this sacred pause. It could be done within the safety of our four walls. Now, this card is from the Mermaid Tarot. And so here we see someone who is trapped in this inverted state, but against their will. So this brings a different type of feeling to the idea of the hangman. Because here the merman is trapped against his wishes. And should he remain in this condition for too long, he will for sure not make it. Now, over here, we have Tarot of Mystical Moments. For me, this kind of has Alice in Wonderland vibes. You can see that the outfit kind of matches the same idea here, where there are clouds floating across. But where this card is different is that she is hanging from a zipper. Can you see that? And it's like all of this is covering what could be. And the longer she hangs here, the more possible it is for her to unzip that and take a closer look at what could be coming her way. I love all the bird energy surrounding her during this time of introspection, of release. It's beautiful. Now, this card has no figures, and it is the Hanged One from my Naturescapes. And it simply shows a completely different viewpoint than what we are accustomed to seeing when we're standing on our own two legs. It just shows a completely different view, and it changes the look of things, because here we're seeing the full picture as opposed to the idea of trying to see the forest through the trees. Now, I wanted to show these together. One is dark, one is light. But I'm showing this because it's not often that we see moon energy in this card. And I love that. Now here we can see there's an owl, right? So the idea that we're gaining wisdom during this pause. This figure almost looks like they're having a good old time. Just hanging around, doing their thing. This reminds me of when we spend so much time sitting in our seats or even standing, and how good it feels to hang upside down and kind of decompress the spine. I feel like that ties into this card so nicely. And I forgot to mention that this is from the Bohemian Gothic, and this is from the Ember and Aura. Now, since we're in spooky season, I thought we'd look at some fun cards. So here we have the Hangman from Nightmare Before Christmas. This is also someone who is hanging, maybe not upside down, but they are trapped and unable to do anything at all except try and talk sense into the person who put them into this position. And you can see that they're being taunted by various spirits or ghosts. Lots of ways to read that. Here we have the Hangman from the Darkwood, and we're looking at a vampire here. Now the vampire has a companion, a bat. She is also looking very peaceful. Another vampire from the Dark Mansion. This one is a little bit goofy, but still we see the figure 4 and a smiley face. Even though what awaits if they were to fall down is to fall into a bunch of brambles. But they don't look concerned. They also have a bat and a toad. Now here we have the final card. This is from Tarot of the Haunted House. And what we see is that a wall has been picked apart, brick by brick, exposing a hanging figure behind the wall. Who knows how many years it has been trapped in that position behind the wall. So clearly we're looking at the shadow of this card. Hopefully you can see by looking at these cards that the hangman doesn't move, but everything around them begins to shift. And that's where the magic happens. Friends, if you love tarot and this content resonates with you, please make sure to like and subscribe. Tap the bell icon so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. And thank you so much for being here. So I thought that we could do a reading, and we're going to be using the Dark Mansion. I left the Hangman out as a significator, and we're going to pull 3 cards so that we can reflect on how the Hangman energy is showing up in our lives right now. So for the first card, what am I being asked to surrender or pause? What am I being asked to surrender or pause? Oh, the Empress. Okay. Now, what new perspective is trying to emerge? What new perspective is trying to emerge? Oh, the devil. Okay. I don't mean to laugh, but I just can't help it. Okay. Now, final question. What support helps me to trust the stillness? What support helps me trust the stillness? 5 of Swords. All right. Let me make sure to line these up. We have a lot of majors in this reading. We have the Empress and the Devil. And then a conflict card, 5 of Swords. Interesting. For the first question, we have, what am I being asked to surrender or pause? We have the Empress. Now, it's interesting because the Empress is usually a card that is tied to growth and expansion with the connection to the number 3, but also to creativity and to abundance and sensuality as well. So when we're thinking about what are we being asked to pause or to surrender, I'm thinking about what things are showing up that could potentially be a barrier at this moment in time. And maybe there's too many ideas. Maybe there's too many projects. Maybe there's too many things on the to-do list or the checklist or the needs list, the want list. That's kind of where I'm feeling, is that it's almost like this sense of like over the top with this Empress, not just in the way that she is dressed and adorned, but also all the landscape that is surrounding her. um, it makes me wonder if she perhaps has too much going on, and therefore she's not able to nurture any one thing because she may be spreading herself too thin. And then card number 2, what new perspective is trying to emerge? We have the Devil. Now, the Devil is that card that is tied to potentially to our shadows, to addictions, things that we cling on to that aren't really helping us or serving us. This idea that we are tied to the things that we're trying to do. Maybe we feel like we lose our identity if we don't have these things in our life. I can't help but want to bring that back to this Empress and the idea that perhaps we have too many things going at the same time. And if we're spreading ourselves too thin, we're naturally not going to be able to bring these projects to fruition. And so we're eternally stuck. And maybe we're taking, a step forward, but maybe we're taking 3 steps back. It's almost that idea of like stealing from this account to put into this other account, either way, there's a deficit. What hidden truths are ready to surface? Maybe that this is not sustainable. I mean, growth is possible. Growth is always possible, but I don't know that this method is sustainable over time. At some point, it becomes overgrown. At some point, there begins to be maybe rotting of all of the things that we were trying to do. What happens when you have a harvest and something happens? You get injured, you're not able to go back out to your garden. What happens to everything that you planted? Everything, doesn't get harvested in time. Eventually, it rots on the plant because everything happens in due time, right? The idea of the hangman is the idea of taking a pause, taking a break, letting something go, not trying to hold on to everything and do everything and reap all the benefits and all the rewards. This kind of feels like have your cake and eat it too. And this feels like I don't care how far I get stretched as long as I get to continue doing the thing that I want to do. But where's the limit? Where do we draw the line? This is like, I want to do everything. And this is like, but it's not sustainable. At some point, your health could be on the line. It could be your physical health. It could be your mental health. It could be your relationships. It could be all the other things. So there's a lot to consider there. This is very heavy energy. Now, ironically, what support helps me trust the stillness? We have the Five of Swords. This is a conflict card. And for me, generally, this is that card of how far is too far. How far are we willing to take things? To this extreme, it's almost like a warning. What support helps me trust the stillness? That we don't need to win every single battle. We don't need to do every single thing. As we start making plans and doing things, like we have to be able to manage our expectations, and we have to be able to see when to draw the line. How much is too much? How far is too far? What support helps me trust the stillness? Trusting in the universe, trusting in divine timing, trusting in the plan, as opposed to letting the ego take control. Hey friends, voiceover me here. Apparently I've had some sort of sound glitch, and I think I was at the end of the reading, but just in case, I will do a quick recap. So the first card that we pulled was the Empress, and the prompt was, what am I being asked to surrender or pause? And I think here the biggest thing that I was noticing was that there was a call to kind of look at all of the things that we are trying to sort of bring to light, projects that we are trying to bring to the table, and maybe perhaps pull back just a little bit. Perhaps we are trying to do too many things at once, and it's important to remember that gestation time is just as important. And then with card number 2, we had the Devil. The prompt was, what new perspective is trying to emerge? And here, what I was seeing is that when we commit to so many things at once, we eventually get to the point where we become captives of our own projects. And whenever we're working in that capacity, it never really feels good, right? Clarity really is going to bring in a form of a freedom for us. And in order to have clarity, we have to kind of break ties with all of the illusions that we create for ourselves, right? Sometimes we become so entangled with all of the different things that we're working on that it makes it hard to kind of see things without those rose colored glasses. So this card is kind of saying, take a step back and see where you're tied to things that you could potentially let go of. And then the final card was the Five of Swords with the prompt, what support helps me trust the stillness? And here, the biggest thing is when we're thinking about this hangman energy, is that stillness protects us from battles that aren't really ours to fight, right? We feel supported when we choose clarity over control. And control comes kind of from that ego energy, if you think about it, tying back to that devil card in the center of the reading. So, a lot of good information coming out of this spread. I really feel like this is inviting us to honor the pause. This is a time of year when we are wanting to slow down naturally if we're observing where we are in the timeline. This is the time where we want to slow things down just a little bit, right? Soften into the unknown and trust that clarity is coming our way. The hangman teaches us that waiting is not a weakness, it is actually wisdom, and that inversion is not confusion, it's clarity in disguise. Sometimes the most powerful shift is the one that we don't force. So, next, we are going to meet death. And this is the archetype of release, transformation, and sacred endings. After the pause comes the letting go. Friends, thank you so much for watching. If this archetype stirred something in you, I would love to hear your reflections below. Feel free to drop a comment, subscribe, stay connected as we continue unlocking the tarot. Until next time, pause with grace and keep listening.